Did Senator Tim Kaine just accidentally tell the truth about the Democrats' plan to steal congressional seats away from Republicans in this week's Virginia referendum on gerrymandering? He did a car crash of an interview on Fox News Sunday, and I've got all the cringy details. In this video, I'll cover exactly what Kaine said, what it means, what he's not saying, and what his fellow Democrats were doing as the clock ticks down to the April 21st referendum. And this includes Abigail Spanberger cackling her way across the Commonwealth, and Obama's Attorney General, Eric Holder, getting torched over on CBS News. It's something to behold. And you'll want to stay tuned to the very end because I've got a very interesting update for you on Spanberger's gun grab. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay through to the end. By the way, hi. I am a fed-up Gen Xer and a ticked-off Virginian who worked for years behind the scenes in conservative media and decided that right now is the time to get in front of the camera and talk the truth. My name is Terry Christoph, and this is Smart Girl Politics. I think we should just dive right in and hear what the good senator had to say to host Shannon Bream on Fox News Sunday.
Listen, let's talk about the last vote there in Virginia, the presidential vote. Vice President Kamala Harris won by about 5 percentage points. So the state is relatively split with a left lean, but 90% of House members from Virginia being from one party?
90% of Virginians are not Democrats. That's true.
Correct.
But about 100% of Virginians want election results to be respected. We're deeply worried that Donald Trump will try to interfere with the election results this November or in 2028 because we saw him do it before. And we have to have a Congress that will stand up to it. In 2021, all 5 Republicans in Virginia went along with Donald Trump in his effort to overturn election results. And so we're giving Virginians a chance to vote, which Republican states have not done, about whether they want to have a congressional delegation that will stand up against Donald Trump's tyranny.
Shannon's like, okay, I've heard enough. But this has nothing to do with fairness at all, as the senator accidentally let slip, because 90% of Virginia is indeed not Democrat, and yet the map the Democrats want to reward themselves with would give them 90% of the congressional seats. So, nothing fair about this at all. Senator Kaine alluded to, it was just 6 years ago in 2020 when we passed a referendum. We spoke not that long ago. The Democrats just don't like what Virginians said. And again, as we like to say around here, when the Democrats can't win by the rules, they change the rules. And that's what they're doing here. So again, nothing to do with fairness. As you can imagine, the reaction from the right was pretty swift, pretty fierce. I want to take just a look at a few of those reactions. This is Paul Bedard, who writes over at the Washington Examiner. He says, Virginia Tim Kaine says it out loud. Half the state's voters don't matter. He doesn't care about them because it's all about messing with Donald Trump. I remember when Virginia had statesman senators, even 2 former Navy secretaries. Now we just have partisan hacks. Not really much to argue with there. They're not serious people. They just hate Donald Trump, and it's extremely tiresome. I also wanted to show you what Jason Miyares, who is the former Attorney General in Virginia, and honestly, one of the, if not the leading voices against this referendum. He's been out there. He's been crisscrossing the Commonwealth, not cackling, unlike Abigail Spanberger. He's been crisscrossing and he's been telling the truth, and he has been really putting the effort in where maybe you might say a lot of Republicans have not been putting the effort in. So here's Jason Miyares on what Tim Kaine had to say. Nothing says defending democracy like rigging the map so 90% of seats go to the party that wins the state with 51% of the vote. Kaine's logic is insulting to everyone like myself that supported nonpartisan redistricting. I did so even when my party was in power, but for Kaine, doing the right thing is just situational ethics. Virginians aren't stupid. Vote no and tell the Democrats to stop disenfranchising Virginians. That about sums it up right there. There's nothing fair about it, and they don't intend it to be fair because that's how they win. This leads us to Eric Holder, who was the victim of actual journalism being practiced by Margaret Brennan. You've seen her often taking Republicans to task. It's not quite as often that she does it to Democrats, but she did on this occasion, really calling Holder out for what the Democrats are trying to do in Virginia. And she references the referendum of just 6 years ago, where Virginians said, we want a bipartisan commission to decide what these boundaries should be, to which the Democrats said, ha ha.
So we're joined now by Eric Holder, who served as Attorney General under former President Obama. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
So you've been working on redistricting. You're chairman of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. Voters out in Virginia are set to make this decision about redrawing districts in a way that would advantage Democrats. As I understand it, it's not just you, it's former President Obama, it's the governor of Virginia, all pushing for this, saying that this gerrymandering will restore fairness. But how is drawing a map along partisan lines, how is that not just stacking the deck? How is that about fairness?
Well, you have to look at this in its totality. This is really a national fight. It's not a fight only about Virginia. And when the president told Governor Abbott in Texas, I needed 5 additional seats in the House of Representatives, there had to be a response to that. And the governor in California decided, all right, we'll ask the people of California, do you want to respond to what has happened in Texas? We're asking the people of Virginia, do you want to respond to what's happened not only in Texas, but in Missouri as well, and in North Carolina as well? And what we're trying to do is come up with a system whereby the people actually decide what's the composition of the House of Representatives so that it can be an effective check on this president. So what Virginia is doing, what California did, is only in response to that which Republicans started in Texas.
But in Virginia, there already was a bipartisan commission that was set up to do these things. I mean, that sounds fair, bipartisan commission. So by holding this referendum and changing the maps, I know you said that this is just a temporary measure. How do you guarantee that this is temporary and that this doesn't keep happening?
Right. Well, the measure itself says that it is time limited. It is only for this cycle, an additional cycle, and after the census.
Well, that could be changed again.
No. Right? Well, no.
Yes. This is not temporary. Nobody believes this is temporary. This is a lie. Eric Holder is lying here. Just keep that in mind.
Well, no, that's nothing that we would be pushing. We need to deal with the crisis that we have right now, come up with a way in which we deal with that crisis, and then get back to.
Just to put in context what he's saying here, he is saying that after the 2030 census, they will more fairly draw the maps, and they would give up those congressional seats that they are stealing right now. Does anybody believe this man? No, we don't believe him.
Back to the redistricting commissions in California and in Virginia. And one thing that I think is really important to understand is that the people have the ability to make this decision in Virginia as they.
We just did. We did in 2020. They can't win by the rules, so they change them.
They did in California, as opposed to it being imposed upon them in Texas and in Missouri and in North Carolina, which proved to be wildly unpopular. But Republican politicians ignored the will of the people in those states and put in place these mechanisms.
But if we put this another way, I mean, look at all the headwinds the president's party is facing right now. We've been talking about the war and the energy costs that go along with it. Historically, the president's party doesn't usually do well in the midterm races. So why do Democrats need to do this? I mean, it sounds like it's acknowledging that the Democratic Party can't win on its own, that it has to go through these measures.
The Democrats can certainly win if it's a fair fight. And the question I have...
It wasn't going to be a fair fight in Virginia?
No, it wasn't going to be a fair fight nationally if you try to...
Nationally. This has nothing to do about fairness or having Virginians fairly represented in Congress. It's merely about handing the speaker's gavel to Hakeem Jeffries so they can fight bad man Donald Trump. That's all it's about. That's simply all it's about.
Steal seats in Texas, in North Carolina, and in Missouri.
Not stealing when they do it. Not stealing when Democrats do it. It's only stealing when the Republicans do it. Okay. This guy was Attorney General of the United States.
Missouri. And so the question I have for people who are critical of that which we're doing is, what were we supposed to do? Nothing? Just allow them to try to stack the deck, to try to steal seats? And all we're trying to...
You didn't have to do nothing. You just had to listen to the will of the people from 2020.
And all we're trying to do is meet them and try to make the system as fair as it possibly can be. And that's all that this is about. And it's temporary, and it is also something that the citizens have the ability to say yes or no to.
Well,
Well, that's what a liar looks like. Interestingly enough, Glenn Youngkin was also on the news this past weekend talking about the upcoming gerrymander referendum in Virginia. And his comments included Eric Holder, and maybe he's telling a different story, maybe the actual story that needs to be told about where this started, and it's not what Eric Holder had to say, if you can believe that.
When Eric Holder, right when he got out of the Obama administration, started the Democrat Redistricting Commission. And then in 2022 and again in 2024, they pressed to pick up seats in New York. But with all that said, it's about Virginia. And Virginia in 2020 held a constitutional referendum, amended our Constitution to have nonpartisan, independent redistricting. 2/3 of Virginians said we want politics out, politicians out. And now we have Abigail Spanberger saying she's going to ignore the voice of Virginians, override them, and try to adopt the most gerrymandered map in America. Today we have what is assessed as the fairest map in America. I don't love it. It's 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, but it's fair. And she wants to override it and turn it into the most gerrymandered map in America. It's wrong. Virginians should stand up and vote no tomorrow.
Do you think that Republicans, or even, I understand that there are some Democrats who don't like this either, is there a chance that this might not happen?
There is a chance, and that's because it is viewed as being such a gerrymandered grab of power, and they've lied to us. I mean, even the Washington Post came out and said that this is the most brazenly dishonest campaign from the yes vote, and they effectively endorsed the no vote, the Washington Post. And Virginians understand this. And so what we're seeing is not only Republicans coming together, but independents and a lot of Democrats. So this is going to be close. Listen, it's an uphill battle because they have poured $70 million into this. That's more than they spent on the governor's race in a very short period of time to try to fool, deceive, and trick Virginians. But the reality is a no vote is for the fairest maps in America.
As I understand it, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, has put in about $20 million of his own campaign cash to help here. And just a quick...
So as Yankin said, tons of money being spent on this race to get Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker of the House, gavel. They want more than anything to fight back against Donald Trump because that's all they have. They have no agenda that appeals to anybody. All they want to do is push back on Trump because he has unmasked them for the cretins that they are. So they have to punish him for that, and they have to punish you for that if you helped to get any sort of Republican or conservative in office. That's what it's all about. They don't care about you, Virginia. They don't care about me. Anyway, I want to just take a little look at cringy Abigail Spanberger and what she was doing this weekend because she's just the weirdest woman. She's just so odd. I'm just going to do a little bit of this because that voice, right? Why can't Democrat women have, like, normal voices?
Say what? Say yes! Say what? Say yes! Say what? Say
So I'll tell you, I already voted. I voted yes. And make sure everybody knows that Tuesday is Election Day. Tuesday is the opportunity for us here in Virginia to push back.
She's just such a strange person that this is who somehow was elected. So let's let Scott Jennings sum things up for us because he's got a way with words. He's doing a showdown on CNN against Van Jones, and who doesn't love to watch that?
All I can hear is Barack Obama saying, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. He lied then, he's lying now. If the Democrats take this map from 6-5 in a 50-50 state to a 10-1 map and put every congressional district under the control of a Democrat who lives in Fairfax County in Northern Virginia, it will be a travesty. It will be a tragedy for a state that has had a tradition of being a very balanced, kind of a bipartisan, nonpartisan state, and it's going to be run by radical Democrats forever. There'll be nothing temporary about this. I'm just arguing that they lied to the people of Virginia about it. The governor, Spanberger, who ran as a moderate, I'm a normal moderate person, and I have no interest in all this partisan politics. I'll never gerrymander your state. That's what she said, and now she lied. And now they're trying to go from a 6-5 map to a 10-1 map. There is not a single fair thing about it, and there won't be a temporary thing about it either. And now you have Democrats from all over the country, like Barack Obama and George Soros and Gavin Newsom and whoever, coming into Virginia to try to basically turn Virginia into the national headquarters for the radical left of the Democratic Party.
If Abigail Spanberger is your definition of a radical Democrat, then I just think the goalposts have been moved quite a bit.
I don't consider her to be a radical Democrat. I consider her to be a lying radical Democrat because she ran as a moderate. She promised she wouldn't do any of these things, Van, and you know it. And now her approval ratings, according to several independent surveys, have plummeted. She's the least popular governor of Virginia at this point in her term of any modern governor of Virginia.
Well, I mean, Scott sums it up really well. Now, if you didn't go take advantage of early voting, Virginia, be sure that you, your family, your friends, and your neighbors get out Tuesday and vote no against this blatant power grab being pushed by Abigail Spanberger, Barack Obama, Tim Kaine, Eric Holder, Hakeem Jeffries, and the rest of the power-hungry Democrat Party. Everybody's asking, what can we do to fight back against this? Voting is the most important, but also bringing your friends, your family to vote too, to make sure they're informed about what is happening here. Make sure they vote too. Now, before I let you go, I wanted to give you a very interesting update on my video last week about Spanberger coming for Virginia's guns. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth delivered a message to the NRA over the weekend, which I thought was really very interesting.
Having just defeated a tyrannical government that sought to disarm them, the founders understood a fundamental and eternal truth: that the right to keep and bear arms is the ultimate guarantor of all other rights. It's no accident that the Second Amendment directly follows the First. It is quite literally the firepower that upholds our cherished freedoms. For 2.5 centuries, the Second Amendment has been the enduring shield of every American, safeguarding their lives, their families, and their property, you might say their sacred fortunes, from threats, both foreign and domestic. And yet for too long, we've witnessed a systemic assault on this God-given right. We've seen anti-American policies pushed from city councils to state legislatures to the highest echelons of the federal government, chipping away at the fundamental and constitutional freedoms our nation was founded upon. Just a few short years ago, we even had a sitting president stand before Congress and demand the disarming of law-abiding American citizens. I'll make this one easy and clear. Not under this administration, and not from this War Department. Those dark days are over.
Okay, then. What he means by that, I'm not entirely sure, but it sounds like the Trump administration is going to keep an eye on what's going on here in Virginia, and I'll keep an eye on it too, for sure. We'll be talking about more about that. And my fellow Virginians, you need to know what Spanberger has planned for your guns, so be sure to watch this video that I'm linking right here. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'll see you next time, and go vote no.